Hey guys, it's Coding Boy 56 back at it with another video. Today we're going to be learning how to make a menu sequencer for your FLL robot. Let's get it. So what exactly is a menu sequencer, you might ask? Well, at an FLL competition or any robotics competition in general, basically when you're at the table, you want to be able to switch between your programs as quickly and as efficiently as possible to maximize on the time that you're given. Well, that's not possible with having to fish through your entire program menu that's already on the EV3 and look for every single program. So instead, what creators often do is that they just put it all into one program, saving each of the programs as my blocks, and then play it from there. So this week, I'm just going to be teaching you how to make three different types of menu sequencers. Now let's just get into it. I'll be starting off with the easiest type of menu sequencer, and that's just one that's going to have all of my blocks in series, and they're going to be separated by a single wait block with a brick button. So as you can see, here are my 5 programs. Inside each of them is just a simple sound block, and they're just going to play in sequence. Of course, for your actual FLL robot, you would have each of your programs in here. I just have 5 here for the sake of this video. And then you just grab out these in sequence, and then we'll grab out a wait block, set it to brick buttons, and we'll set compare brick buttons. I'm just going to stick with the default brick button, which is the center one over here, and then we just copy this over and over. So I'll put that there, put a wait there. Oh, actually I should have one before this even starts. So there you go. I'm just separating those. There. Or, whoops. There. Yeah. So basically all it's doing is that it's waiting until you press the center button on the brick, and then it'll play your first program. Once it's finished the first program, it'll wait again for you to press the button, and then it'll run a second program, and so on and so forth. So this is the simplest type of menu sequencer, and let's give it a shot. So I'll just press the center button, and it'll play each of the sounds in sequence. It's done that, my block. And the last one. So now we're going to create a moderate level menu sequencer. So as you can see, as I'm going up in the difficulty of making these programs, they're going to be much more user-friendly on the FLL table. So when I go to the last one, I personally recommend you choose doing the third type of menu sequencer. Anyway, let's create the second program. Now this one is just going to be a program with the 5 brick buttons. So you'll put a loop, you'll put a switch, and then you're going to have 6 cases for it. But you're going to first switch it to brick buttons, measure brick buttons, and then you'll put the 0 as the default case, and then you'll add a few more cases on, 5 cases additionally. I think I added too many, whatever. So then this one's gonna be number 1, number 2, number 3, scroll down, number 4, and number 5. Yeah, I created one too many. And now all we have to do is put in our my blocks in each of the respective slots,
except for the top one, because that is going to be our default case. If nobody is pressing anything, it's just going to keep on looping over and over. It's going to wait until you've actually pressed something. So there it is. So the advantage of this program is that it's a little more user-friendly, it's a little more forgiving. For example, in the previous program, if I accidentally press the center button, then it would run the program even when I wasn't ready for it, and then I'd have to exit the program and then press all the buttons all over again, and that would be horrible on the FLL table. But that program is good in considering you don't make any mistakes. But if in the case that you do make mistakes, this is a little more forgiving. Now the downside of this program is that it's only able to accommodate up to 5 different brick buttons, 5 different my blocks. So if you have any more different runs, if you have any more runs than that on your um, at your FLL competition, then this probably isn't the best program for you. With that being said, let's just give it a go.
So I'll press the first button, the second button, third button, fourth button, and fifth button. Now, what I meant by this is a little more forgiving is that in case I accidentally press the wrong button, I can still press any of the other buttons I want. It still runs that program. But I can only store 5 programs on it.
We'll be moving on to our hardest one, which I think is a little misleading, because the more work you put into making this menu sequencer, I think the better you'll find it at the competition. Anyway, this is also going to involve brick buttons, but not in the same sense as we had it in before. So this is actually going to involve creating one variable. I know that's a little annoying, but it's going to be worth it, trust me. Let's call it run number. Okay, it doesn't accept that. Just keep it at run. It'll be starting off at run 0, and we're going to set this to brick buttons, measure brick buttons. Now the only 2 cases we're going to have being set for this is this as 0 as the default case. Oh, we only need 3, my bad. 1, and then we'll add one more case, and that's going to be case number 3. Now we're going to put in one more if statement, and it's going to be set to numeric. Now our default case is going to be set as 0, in which case it'll do nothing. And now we'll start creating the 5 extra cases. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. As you can probably guess, we put in our 5 my blocks here. Just squeeze that down a little. Actually, we'll have our default at 1. And then what we're going to do is that if the left button is clicked, it's going to subtract from that. And if the right button is clicked, it's going to add to that. So we're reading numeric the value of run, and then we're adding 1 to that. And then we're just going to write it back to run again. That's essentially adding 1 to run every time you press this button. And we'll just copy paste this into the bottom. Or rather, we're going to have to subtract up here. So there it is. Now all this program is doing is that if you press the right button, you move up one run from wherever you were at. So if you were at run number 3 and you press the right button, then you'll go to run number 2, run number 4. But I think it should be better if we put a little weight here in the form of a brick button, so that you actually have control over when you're looking at. I'll put brick buttons, compare brick buttons, and we'll set it at the center button. So you just click the left or right button and then the center button to whatever you want. I'll copy paste that. Now this part actually won't work, and the reason for that is if you're pressing that button and you press it for however longer than this loop takes to run, then when the loop returns back over here, then if it sees you pressing it, it's gonna subtract from 1 again, and it's just gonna keep on going out of your control. So what we're gonna do to prevent that is we're gonna wait for you to release the button as well. Now instead of the button state as 1 as usual, which is just being pressed, we'll put the release state, and we'll put that down for the bottom 2. Now the program is essentially built at this point, but what we're going to do is just make it a little more user-friendly, and that is we're going to print the value of run every time, so you know where you're at in the program. Set this to text, pixels, and then wired. Now we'll grab out the run and set it to numeric read. There we go. And oh, I forgot to put this in the thing, in the switch. So now it's actually reading it, my bad. Now, I think that's the entire program. Let's give it a go. So I realized I made a few mistakes in the program, and I'm just going to explain exactly how to get it working again. One of those things that I had to change was that before this was set to the center one, which doesn't really make sense if you're pressing the 1 button, so I changed that back to 1, and this is to 3. And then another thing I changed was that instead of having the weights for the center button in each of these, I put it on the outside over here, and I enclosed this numeric if statement with a brick if statement, so it'll only start running if there isn't if someone is actually pressing a button. Otherwise it'll just skip over it and just keep on changing the run number. And the reason for this is that basically what happened before was that it would just keep on waiting for me to press the center button, and then it would just end up playing the number 1, which is what the default run was set to. So instead, I just set it to 0, and I got it working from there. Now the advantage of this program versus the other two is that even though it's a little more complex, what you can do with it is that it's very forgiving. You can always change it, and you can store an unlimited amount of programs on it. Anyway, let's give it a go for real this time. So I just press the right button and it'll increase the number, and then it actually goes beyond that to 6 and so forth, and you can always decrease it with the left button, and then whichever program you're on, just click it and it'll play that specific program. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching that video. If you did, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you next week. Bye!